Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome back to my channel, my lovelies. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for clicking on my video. I'm so happy you found me. I do still hope that you will like and subscribe before you leave. Become part of the Mama family. Mama's got your back, at least where makeup's concerned, and definitely when that makeup is cheap. You picked a really good one to come see me on because today is True Love Tuesday, one of my absolute favorite videos to film every single week. And this week we're talking about the one and the only Johnny Cash and June Carter. Guys, they are absolute Hollywood country music royalty. If you don't know who Johnny Cash is, baby girl, go check him out. He is absolutely just, he's everything. He is the Elvis of country music. He is a bad boy. He is just, he's the king of country music. Really just the king of country music. He has 1,000,001 different amazing songs, everywhere from Ring of Fire to Cry. It just amazing songs. So if you don't know who he is or his music, please go check him out and then let me know if you love him or if you really love him. So we're talking about them today. We're going to be doing a super simple eye kind of full face look. I'm actually modeling this look off of Miss June Carter herself. She was such a beautiful woman, but a very natural beauty. She didn't really wear a lot of makeup. She was not like she was not a beauty queen kind of lady at all whatsoever, but she was beautiful in this very natural kind of glowy type of way. So I'm gonna hopefully try to emulate that just a little bit in today's video. I already have one eye done. It is very just simple. So I have just a little bit of a crease color on, a little bit of a shimmer, and then I have a small wing with some nice big lashes. We're gonna pair this with a really beautiful coral lipstick. In all of the pictures that I saw of her, she always had the most beautiful kind of very natural looking skin with a beautiful like orangey corally lipstick on. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm really excited about this look, and we're gonna do like a full face in today's video as well. So we're gonna do like base products and all that good stuff. Hopefully I will be able to get it done before I get done telling the story. I feel like this week's story is going to be just a little bit longer just because we got lots to talk about. Mr. Johnny was, he was a bad boy. He was a bad boy, but a lovable one at the end. So we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. I have nothing on my face right now except for a little bit of moisturizer and of course my eyebrows and one eye done, but my skin is clear. I am so happy with how my skin is looking today. My skincare routine is really doing things for me. I have a skincare video coming up very soon, actually partially due to the fact that I got a skincare set off of Amazon that I am so in love with. It is doing wonders for my skin. So that'll be in my Amazon video that's going to be coming up right after this one. So it'll be the next video that I upload. Guys, definitely be on the lookout for that one. That one is so very much fun. If you see me looking over to the side, it is because I have my notes sitting right here. You guys know that I try not to lie to you whenever possible. But I have absolutely no memory. My memory is shot. So I need to have my little notes over here because I won't remember it and then I will end up lying to you, and I don't want to do that. So a little bit of backstory first on June and then on Johnny, and then we'll get on to them together. I'm going to use this Makeup Revolution Coco Pebbles palette. This is so adorable. I actually was sent this by one of my friends off Facebook. She sent this to me, and it is absolutely the most adorable palette ever. You have a nice little mirror, and then this is what the color story looks like. Super simple, very neutral kind of color story. But we're gonna go into the shades. What am I going to use? So first I'm going to use shade Barney, and then I'm going to go in, I'm going to use shade Caveman and then Barney, and then a little bit of chocolatey, and then we're going to use the shade as a little bit of a sparkle. I'm going to get into the groove of telling the story, so I'm probably not going to show you exactly what I'm using, but I will list everything I use in today's video in the description box below, along with all of the other links to my social medias. So if you guys aren't following me on all of my other platforms, please make sure that you're doing that. I post all kinds of really fun content. You don't want to miss a second of it. So if you want to see more of my face, definitely check out the links below. Okay, so a little bit of backstory on June 1st. So June was born on June 23rd. So June was born in June, which I thought was really cute. She was born on June 23rd, 1929. Her birth name was Valerie June Carter. She was born in Mecca Springs. My handwriting is terrible. She was born in Virginia, y'all. She was born in Virginia. She lived with her mother and her father. They actually had a very successful country music group before she was born called the Carter Family. And they did that with her uncle and her aunts. And they all kind of sang and played instruments and, you know, did bluegrass and country music and folk music. Country folk music, some of the prettiest music. Like, it's so, well, I'm from the mountains, so I enjoy that anyway. But they did folk music. They were actually pretty successful. And then June actually joined, you know, she started singing in the family band at age 10. So she was a born performer. She was a born singer. She came out of the womb singing, y'all. She started singing with the band at age 10. And then her mother and her two sisters formed a band separate of the Carter family band, and this was named the Mother Maybeline and the Carter sisters. Now, when they were billed, like on the signs and stuff, it was shortened to just the Carter sisters. But her mother, and her two singers, and her two sisters sang with her, and they were really, really successful as well. They actually ended up joining the band. The Carter sisters actually ended up joining the cast of the Grand Ole Opry in 1940. And that is where she met her first husband, Carl Smith. She met and married him in 1952, and they had a daughter together named Carlene. I just love that name, Carlene. And she ended up becoming a singer as well. So there's a little bit of backstory on Miss June. Now we talk about Johnny, and his situation is just a little bit more complicated. So he was born J.R. Cash. J.R. didn't stand for anything. It was literally just initials. If y'all can hear that, that is thunder. It is raining cats and dogs outside right now. So hopefully my power don't go out. Hopefully my lights don't go out. If it does, I guess we'll have to stop and restart again when it's over. But it is raining cats and dogs out there, and the thunder is real. So he was born J.R. Cash, just J.R. Didn't stand for anything, and that was because apparently his parents could not decide. They couldn't compromise on a name, so they just like, okay, we'll just name him initials. So that, I thought that was funny, an interesting little tidbit. He was born in Cleveland County, Arkansas on February 26, 1932. So he was younger than Miss Loretta. That is kind of like a thing. For more country people, I'm finding that the men like older women, which is a fun fact. He started using the name John. I thought this was a fun fact as well. His name was not actually John on his birth certificate. Like I said, it's just J.R. But he ended up enlisting in the United States Air Force, and his recruiter would not accept initials on his sign-up papers, so he ended up just using the name John. And throughout his career, it got, it kind of moved up to Johnny. But yes, he was kind of like an assumed name. So that's a fun fact for the day. He started using it when the Air Force recruiter wouldn't accept his initials, and throughout his career became Johnny. The first tragedy that happened to Mr. Johnny Cash was when he was very, very young. I think he was around 12. And his older brother Jack died in an industrial accident. Now this was so sad, and it broke my heart just a little bit when I read this, because Johnny was very, very, very close to his brother Jack, and his brother went to work one day, and he went to what happened? Okay, so industrial accident sawing wood. So I can only imagine how horrific that was. So he went to work one day, had a big accident with the equipment, and ended up dying. And then he was so heartbroken. Johnny ended up having to dig his brother's grave because, they didn't, back then people didn't have money for funeral services and things like that. So he ended up having to dig his brother's grave. And then after that, he attended the funeral covered in dirt from digging his brother's grave. And his older sister, or was it his sister? Yeah, his sister said that he was never the same again. It took a piece of him. When his brother died, it took a piece of his heart, a piece of his soul with him. And I think that is like the first nail in the coffin when it comes to the problems he faces later on. When you experience tragedy like that, especially when you're that young, he was only 11 years old. When you experience a tragedy like that young, you don't know how to deal with it. You don't know how to cope, right? So that was the first really terrible thing that happened to him. And then that is what led to him to start drinking. He actually started drinking when he was very, very young. And this comes into play later on in the story. If you guys know anything about Johnny Cash, you will know that he is notorious for having problems with drugs and alcohol. And this was the catalyst. This is what started everything. So he attended the funeral covered in dirt, and he was never the same. In 1950, he graduated. He had a few short jobs, like a few little miscellaneous things here and there that he did for money, but never could really he never really could figure out what he really wanted to do. So like I said, he ended up joining the Air Force. And before shipping off to Germany in 1951, he met a woman by the name of Vivian Liberto at a roller rink, of all places, in San Antonio, Texas. And it was kind of like a whirlwind romance. She was his first love. She kind of swept him off his feet, really. He just kind of fell in love with her instantly, and they continued to have romance even while he was like shipped off. They continued to write letters to each other. Work and talk. They continued to write letters to each other and communicate for his entire deployment. And then when he got back, he actually married her as soon as he returned. As soon as he returned to the United States, as soon as he returned, they married in 1954. So he shipped off in 51, was gone for 3 years. They married in 1954 and ended up having 4 daughters, all girls. So Miss Lerner has 1 daughter. Johnny has 4. So they had 4 daughters: Roseanne, Kathy, Cindy, and Tara. All such pretty names. And they moved to Memphis. And for a little while, he sold appliances. Like, he worked at an appliance store. He sold appliances like refrigerators and stoves, things like that. But again, it was not really what he wanted to do with his life. And he was never, happy or fulfilled doing that. So he started to look, he started to try to find his passion. And his brother Roy, his older brother Roy, introduced him to a couple of guitarists by the names of Luther Perkins and Marshall Grant. And they became, his backup players, and they actually formed a band called the Tennessee Two. In 1955, he actually, what is that word? I'm having a brain fart at the moment. But he manages to introduce himself to a producer by the name of Phillips, and in May, actually recorded Porter and Cry, Cry, Cry. 2 of his very, very best songs, in my opinion. They're his earliest songs, his first 2 songs. And Cry, 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 if you've never listened to it before, is such a beautiful song. And actually, he wrote Cry, Cry, Cry because when he performed Porter, The producer, Phillips, was like, okay, I love it so much, but write me a sad song to go with it. So he went home, and it said that he wrote Cry, Cry, Cry in 15 minutes. And you know, that's real genius when you can go home, pick up a piece of pen and paper, and snap a song out in 15 minutes. Just crazy, crazy talented, right? So he went home, he wrote Cry, 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 and then they actually recorded it, and that was the beginning of his career. In July 1956, John debuts at the Grand Ole Opry, right? Now, back in the day, this was the end-all be-all. This is where everyone wanted to be. The Grand Ole Opry was the epitome of country music talent back in the day. If you were signed to the Grand Ole Opry, you were going places. It was the single. Can't talk and do eyeliner at the same time. It was the single largest collection of musical talent anywhere, right? And this is in Memphis. So he debuts at the Grand Ole Opry, and this is right after he released I Walk the Line. Now, we all know this song. Have we all seen the movie? It's got Reese Witherspoon in it. Really, really fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, go see it. So worth the watch. But this was right after he released that song, and he was talking work. Y'all, he was doing great. He was pumping out songs, hit after hit, really just bringing so much attention to country music. And he was actually one of the very, very first country music artists to have a crossover hit, because his song okay, I'm right. For the first time, I'm right, and I didn't have to check my notes. So he was one of the very first country music artists to have a crossover hit. So his country album crossed over to the pop charts and ranked on the pop charts as well, which was a big deal, so he won lots of awards for that one. He actually was welcomed by, at this time, he's at the Grand Ole Opry, right? And Miss June Carter, this is where they meet. Miss June Carter is still at the Grand Ole Opry, and at this time, she's still married to Carl Smith, and Carl welcomes Johnny with open arms. Everybody loves Johnny at this point, right? He's this mega talented, super charismatic, just enigma of a musician, and everybody just really wants to be friends with him. Everybody wants to know him. So Carl welcomes him with open arms, and but Johnny really only had eyes for June. And Johnny had known of June because he had followed her career with not only the Carter family band, but also the Carter sisters. I think he was in love with her already and just didn't know it. And he really only had eyes for June. He met Carl, but really the only person he wanted to meet was June. And he did indeed meet her. And he just kind of made a beeline to her. And the first words he said to her was, "I've always wanted to meet you." And she was just like, he's like rock and roll. He's like a country god at the moment, right? He's on top of all the charts. He's got the very first country pop crossover record, and here's just little old June, and he comes up to her and he's enamored of her. She's completely flustered and flabbergasted, and the first thing he says to her is, "I've always wanted to meet you." I would be so flattered. I wouldn't know what to do with myself either. And she actually, there's a quote that she says that I really want to read to you guys, because even before they were together, you could tell that there was this chemistry there. But I can't talk and do winged liner at the same time, so I'm going to try to get my wing out of the way first. And then we can move on. I absolutely love this eyeliner. This is the Shop Miss A eyeliner. It's $1, guys. It's $1, and it's quite fantastic. Really, really beautiful pigmentation. Super easy to use as well. And we're good to go. Okay, so that's the eye look. Super simple, super easy. We'll put a little bit of mascara on, and then we can move on to the face. June said of meeting Johnny for the first time, she said, I feel like, he said, I feel like I already know you. And she said, I can't remember anything else we talked about except his eyes. Those black eyes that shone like agates. He had a command of his performance like I had never seen before. Just a guitar and a bass and a gentle presence that made not only me, but whole stadiums of people become his followers. And I just thought, what would it feel like? What would it feel like to meet a man with that kind of presence? To meet a man that commanded that much attention without saying a word? Without saying a word, without having to be loud, or without having to, you just wanted to be near him. It's one of those qualities, I feel like, that all true stars and all true, like, special people, I guess, they just have that quality. They have this magnetism, right? That just makes you want to be, they just make you want to be there. They just want to make you, do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? And the fact that she said his eyes shone like black agates. At this point, she's not even thinking about having a romantic entanglement with him. They've literally just met. And for her to be mesmerized by those eyes, by his presence and by the look in his eye, it's so romantic. It's so romantic, and I love it so very much. So they meet, and they're all friends, and they don't get together or anything like that for a really long while. So they actually were friends for a good long while before they were ever romantically involved. But I think that's one of the reasons that their relationship lasted and worked as well as it did, because they really knew each other. They really knew each other before they decided to be together. And I think that's so freaking smart. Really, really smart. So they met, and in the 6th Street, and they're friends. And actually, if this isn't kind of self-explanatory, I don't know what else is. But Johnny was actually really good friends with Elvis. So I probably should have realized that, but I didn't for some reason. It didn't occur to me that he would be friends with Elvis, but he was indeed. He was really good friends with Elvis. And so Johnny and June actually started touring. And in the 60s, Carter and Cash started touring together. She was really just kind of his backup singer. She was his backup singer. She was his co-vocalist. They filmed songs together. I'm going to take a little bit of foundation and start putting my foundation on now. But they started touring regularly together in the 60s. And by this time, they were both on the verge of being divorced. Well, no, they weren't. June had divorced. She had gotten divorced. She had divorced Smith and actually had remarried. So by this time, she's remarried. She's remarried to a police officer by the name of Edwin Nix. And she had another daughter, Rosie, who, funnily enough, became a singer as well. And both John and June would remain married to their spouses. So he's still on his first marriage. He's still married to Vivian. June has been divorced. She divorced Carl and married Edwin. And they would both stay married to their partners until 66 and 67. Vivian ended up filing for divorce from John due to his, alcohol abuse problems, and also due to the fact that he was just touring so much. He was never home. She was tired of being lonely, which I can totally understand. he was never there. And I think at this point he was already in love with June as well. And I just don't think that Vivian was a priority to him at all. But I can say with no small amount of satisfaction that neither one of them ever was they never committed adultery. So they were never unfaithful to their partners, which makes me so happy because I'm not a big believer in cheating on your spouse. I know that, sometimes love is love and you don't really have a choice and the heart wants what the heart wants, and I completely understand that. But I prefer when these stories come about, without somebody having to endure heartbreak like that. If you're anything like me, I've been cheated on before. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about it happening to somebody else. You know what I mean? So they stayed married. They both ended up getting divorced in 66 and 67. Vivian filed for divorce in 66, but the divorce wasn't granted until 67. And it was, June has said of them getting together, she said that it wasn't a convenient time for either of us to fall in love. She said that it wasn't a convenient time for him. It wasn't a convenient time for her. They're both, they both just got divorced. And honestly, they didn't, in all of the research that I did about them, they didn't really talk about the beginning of their relationship too awful much. So, it's very possible that there could have been a little bit of infidelity happening. But I just don't get that vibe from them. I really feel like they tried to keep it, especially June, they tried to keep it as wholesome as they could. They're God-fearing people. They really just tried to keep it as above the board as they could, but they don't really talk about the, what happened and how they first got together very much. I looked for it and I couldn't find anything on it. So what she said is about them getting together. She said it was not a convenient time to fall in love for either of us. I was afraid of his way of life. I thought, I can't fall in love with this man. It's just like a ring of fire. Does that ring any kind of bells for you guys? Ring of Fire is one of my absolute favorite Cash songs. I just had a brain fart again. But June was actually the one who pretty much wrote that song with Johnny. And it was just a total and complete smash. Down, down, down in this burning ring of fire. I can't sing it for nothing, but y'all have got to listen to the way that this man sings that song. Just the cadence of his voice and just how deep and low it is. It's just a really, really fantastic song. One of his most well-known songs of all time. And it actually came out of the fact that kind of, like Forbidden Love, how falling in love can feel overwhelming and it can completely engulf you, and it can feel dangerous and it can feel scary. And she says, I was afraid of his way of life because, y'all, this man he was a sinner. He was a sinner through and through. He was not afraid to do stupid things and did them very, very often. We're going to get into a couple of his biggest kind of whoopsies here in just a minute. Look how pretty that foundation is. Very, very light coverage. Just kind of evens up my skin tone just a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit of light contouring and light bronzing, but she never really did much of that. She just kind of left everything to be very, very natural looking. So she helped him co-write Ring of Fire. It was first recorded. It was actually... so she helped him write it, but it was actually first recorded by June's sister, Anita, and then shortly after she recorded it, Johnny, took his little turn at it and ended up making it a big, giant success. But I didn't know that her sister had recorded it first, but she did. So, it was first recorded by June's sister, Anita. Then John recorded it in 63. Through the 60s, John struggled with addiction to both drugs and alcohol. And because of that, he often just missed or canceled show dates. And this earned him quite a reputation as a little bit of a divo. He would lay up in a hotel room and just get drunk, or he really liked he liked uppers, he liked downers, he liked just about anything that would make him feel good. Trying to run away from bad memories, trying to run away from the demons in his head. Y'all know that we've all been there. I myself, as a recovered addict, know exactly what he means, or know exactly what he was trying to run away from. It's really difficult, especially when that demon is riding you as hard as it rode him for as long as it did. It makes you not care about anything. It does, and as important as his music was to him, as important as June was to him, at that moment, nothing in the world was as important to him as the feeling he got when he did drugs or when he got drunk. And it is the one thing in the world that will ruin a person. Drugs and alcohol, they will ruin a person quicker than just about anything else on the planet. And once you're under the spell of that particular demon, it's really difficult to wake yourself up and kind of snap out of it. And this all culminated to a point where, he hit his rock bottom. He hit his rock bottom, and he was wandering along the banks of the Mississippi River. We're not going to get there yet. So he's still very much under the spell of drugs and alcohol. And he was arrested 7 times. Luckily, I guess, because he was as famous as he was, he never really spent any real time in jail. Maybe a couple nights here and a couple nights there, but he never actually went to prison. Never really spent any real amount of time incarcerated. And he actually, one time, when I found this out, I was like, what? I never knew this, right? So in 1965, Johnny was caught returning from Mexico, y'all. He came back from Mexico, and he was caught with over 1,000 amphetamine tablets in his possession. Like, who does that? Who does that? Who in the world needs over 1,000? I mean, wow. It just kind of blew my mind a little bit, but over 1,000 tablets. That was just like, whoa. So he got caught with those. I'm not sure what happened with that, but he got caught with those. That same year, he actually set fire to a national forest. Y'all, this man, if he's lucky, he had as much money and was as famous as he is, because anybody else would still be locked up for this stuff. But that same year, he actually set fire to the Los Padres National Forest in California, when I guess he was either nodding out with a cigarette in his hand or something to that effect, and he was camping, and set his camper on fire, and set fire to how much burned? Caught fire, burned hundreds of acres of forest, of national forest, right? In the Los Padres National Forest, burned hundreds of acres of forest, killing many endangered California condors. Now, I watch Nat Geo continuously as one of my absolute favorite things to watch on television, and I actually know a lot about the California condors. They're still super endangered, but at that point I think they were just on, or were just added to the endangered species list. But that's where they that was their refuge. That was what they called home, the Los Padres National Forest. And because that's where he set the fire, he ended up killing so many of these giant birds. They look very much like vultures, but they're not really. And just, they were already endangered, and then on top of that, to kill so many more of them, like, they still haven't come back from that, unfortunately. And because of this, he actually became the first person in history to be sued by the United States government for starting a forest fire. I mean, you know, I can see wanting to go down in the books, you know, for something, but honey child, going as the first person to be sued by the U.S. government. Okay, so yes, he did indeed get sued by the U.S. government. I don't know what happened with that. I'm pretty sure he ended up having to pay a gigantic fine. And I'm sure I'm sure he was still paying on that when he died. But yes, he became the first person to be sued by the U.S. government. I'm going to do a little bit of a brush. I'm going to blush. I'm going to do a really, really light kind of blush. So yeah, he set fire to the national forest. And that was his lowest. That was his rock bottom. And he spoke about it later on in life, but that was his rock bottom. That was when he really realized that something had to change, because he was going to end up either dead or in prison. And he was wandering along the banks of the Tennessee River when he came upon a cave, and he had enough, you know, stuff on him that he was prepared to go into that cave and never come out. He had every intention of overdosing and just kind of putting himself out of his misery. And instead of going in there and ending his life, he found the Lord. And like I said, as a recovering addict, I know exactly what he's talking about. There's always that one point when things are at their worst, and you can't take it anymore. You don't want to be that person anymore, and something has got to change. And the Lord is always there. The Lord is always there to pick you up when you're at your lowest. The Lord is always there to tell you that there are better days coming, that I am here for you. I can help you. And in that cave, he found God. And when he came out, he said that he went home, and both I keep wanting to say Loretta, but it's not. Both June and his mother were waiting there for him with open arms. And that was the day that he decided he was never going to touch another pill again. He still struggled a little bit with alcohol after that, but he credits June with being the reason he was able to stop doing the drugs, because she was there, and she was such a supportive, comforting. She was just there for him, you know. And if you've ever experienced any like addiction, you know, there is always, if you can recover, when you do recover, it's always because there was that one person that refused to give up on you, that one person that no matter what you did, never thought you were worthless, always reminded you of your worth, you know. And for him, that was June. And he did so good. And you know, I didn't know this either, but apparently June struggled with her own addictions. It's not clear. I couldn't really find out what she struggled with, but she apparently did have her own struggles and addictions, and together they were able to beat them together and become happy, healthy people, the people that they wanted to be. And I think that is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. It is so difficult. It is so difficult to overcome addiction, and to be able to do that, to be able to overcome it with somebody you love and somebody who's willing to stand beside you, and to be able to do that together, I think is a really, really special and important step in the recovery process. So they were able to beat their demons together. And let's see, I don't want to lie to you. So waiting for him with open arms when they got home. That was the day he swore off pills. June and Johnny never really, like I said, never really spoke about how they got together. And I think they just wanted to keep that to themselves. They seem like they were pretty private people in general, and as much as they were public figures, I think their relationship was the one thing that they really just kept for themselves, and I don't blame them at all whatsoever. So they never really spoke about how they got together, or, you know, when exactly it happened, but they got together, but they never really spoke about how they got together. But John did propose. The one thing they did share with, you know, lots of fans was the proposal. And John proposed to June on stage at the London Ice House in front of a crowd of over 7,000 people. Got down on one knee and asked June to marry him, and that was in February of 1968. They got married just a few weeks later, and throughout their career, they stayed married until the end of their lives, and throughout their career, they shared, how many Grammys did they share together? Throughout their career, they shared Grammy Awards in 67 and 1970. And then June also had 2 solo Grammy Awards, and then Mr. Johnny had 11 solo Grammys for Mr. Johnny Cash, on top of him receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award. What year was that? Okay, it doesn't say. So yeah, so John had 11 solo awards plus a Lifetime Achievement Award. John and June had one child. They ended up having just one baby together, and they had the first boy, right? So John has 4 daughters with his first wife. June has 2 daughters, right? So that's 6 daughters and 1 boy. They finally had 1 boy together. They named him John Carter Cash, which I think is so super cute, in 1970, and he grew up to be a music producer. So all of their children ended up, well, I don't know about John's children, but all of her children ended up becoming, country music, either singers or producers, something like that. They all ended up like in the country music sphere, which I think is so cute. How can you not when you're part of country music royalty like that? And then they stayed together for the rest of their lives. Guys, what I think is so incredibly romantic is that they passed away 4 months apart. June passed away. June passed first. June passed away on May 2003, and then John followed her in September. John wrote to June, this is going to finish off, this is the face. What do we think? Do we look beautiful and glowy and very, very natural? I am so in love with it. I don't have any kind of powder on my face. I didn't add a highlighter just because I don't think that I need it. I'm really glowy and beautifully dewy and just kind of fresh-faced looking. I don't think I need any extra glow on my face, but this is the finished look. What do we think? Do we like it? Do we love it? I think this is a really, really pretty, everyday, au natural kind of look. But to finish off the video, I want to read you this quote. And John wrote this to June on her, stayed together. John wrote to June on her 65th birthday. You still fascinate and inspire me. You influence me for the better. You're the object of my desire. You're the #1 earthly reason for my existence. We got old and we got used to each other. We think alike. We read each other's minds. We know what the other wants without asking. And sometimes we irritate each other a little bit. Maybe sometimes we take each other for granted. But once in a while, like today, I meditate on it and realize how lucky I am to share my life with the greatest woman I've ever known. It's so perfect. It is so perfect and so beautiful and such a beautifully real love story, right? Because people are flawed. People are, as much as we like to think that our idols are these perfect, immaculate kind of human beings that do no wrong, they both had their own struggles, and it wasn't even just him, because she had her own struggles as well. His were a little bit more public, but she had her struggles as well, and they came together, and it was them versus everything else, and they were strong enough together to beat all of the bad things, to beat all the addictions and all of the vices and they were strong enough together. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm gonna put, almost forgot to put my lipstick on. But they were strong enough together to beat everything. And I think that's what real love is. Real love is not always this great kind of gold-plated, splendorous, you know, love affair. Sometimes love is hard and it's dirty and it's gritty. And sometimes love is just seeing the best in someone, you know? Guys, that is it for our video today. I hope you enjoyed today's story. I really, really, really loved this one. It made me happy. It made me happy to talk about it. It made me happy to learn about it. Johnny Cash definitely had some problems, but June was always there for him. Guys, as always, no filters, no edits, no fancy lighting. It's just me sitting in front of my camera, playing with my makeup, hoping you guys are enjoying what I'm doing. I will, of course, list everything that I used in today's video in the description box below, along with the links to all my other social medias. You guys know the drill. And I think that's about it for me today. So until next time, my beautiful Loverlies, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and remember, you're important. Bye.